All right, it's 2 o'clock, and I see we've got some people filtering in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rolling with this. If there are people that come in late, they will be able to catch up because the PowerPoint presentation is really just kind of laying the groundwork for what we're going to discuss when we actually get into the UI of the encoder. So what we're talking about today in our sixth of our monthly installments of 2023 webinar Wednesdays is a specific Z-band product. This is the Encode LS. The LS is stands for live streaming. We're fancy like that, where we where we abbreviate things. So the Encode LS is our Z-band live streamer. It's a single channel device, and it is piggybacking off of what we talked about last month when we had a discussion of live streaming technologies, like MPEG Dash, RTMP, RTMPS. Had a nice discussion with the gentleman at Infocom about WebRTC. So it was really timely to do that and then go down to Infocom and kind of have that same conversation. So we'll do 3 slides here real quick on the Encode LS, and then we'll jump into the user interface and kind of just walk you through the product, where we see its use cases, and really how easy it is to use and set up, which is one of my favorite things about it. So the Encode LS, like I said, it's a single channel encoder, accepts HDMI in the rear of the device, and then broadcasts. It's a streamer. This is designed to integrate with our IPTV system or with other IPTV systems, since what we're doing is all UDP, RTP, kind of your traditional standards-based multicast or unicast broadcasting. The most common applications that we see for these things are, like I said, the local broadcast. This one's huge in K through 12, whether we're just broadcasting what's going on from the morning announcement studio, whether we're broadcasting from a PC or other signage player for things like bus dismissals. Local broadcast is really like the primary application for this. And then when I get outside of the K through 12 market, the chapel channel, the mother baby channel, any source where you have an actual physical device, a media player, an Apple TV. We even have a client who uses the Chrome sticks. Any of those types of devices, you can just feed the HDMI into the device, and then it's going to stream. Where we see it in education a lot is in this like expansion of your broadcasting capabilities. So whether that's graduation, if you have a special guest coming in to give a speech, the superintendent's doing an announcement, or if you're like one of the local schools just won the state softball championship. So if your team is playing in the state softball championship, or that broadcast is on your local public access station, you can broadcast that out, or you can broadcast that game live, through HDMI and stream it that way. So you have this ability to pick events, whether those are events that are happening within the school or whether they're happening on school grounds, and stream those out as well. And then the other place we really started to see applications for this is in this kind of lecture capture concept, because like I said, everything that we're doing here is creating in a standards-based environment. So H.264, UDP, RTMP, RTP, all of those things are not proprietary to Z-band or Z-band technologies, but can integrate with other systems. So we have utilized these devices to stream back to our own VOD library, or to just be streamed back to some kind of centralized VOD library, and allow for recording that way. You can also just, and you'll see it here when we go in and do the YouTube setup, YouTube automatically VOD archives anything that you send that way. So you can also have this online video on demand library you build as well, if you're using the Encode LS as your streaming solution. So there's a lot of different applications. Really kind of the basic is, if you are trying to move a channel from point A to point B, this is a good way to do it. So what does that actually look like from an architecture standpoint? You're going to connect the HDMI, and then you can stream both locally and out to the web simultaneously. This is one of my favorite parts about this encoder, and I'll show this when we get into the UI. That means 90–95% of the time, this box is just doing the very simple thing that you would expect this box to do. It's taking that HDMI source and it's streaming locally within your building or within your campus and allowing you to watch that content. But you can also set up this simultaneous unicast destinations for, Facebook Live, YouTube, or if you have like a CDN, like a Wowza or an Akamai that you work with to put content actually on your website, you can go through and do things that way as well. And you can do that simultaneously with the multicast broadcast. So if you're talking about something like a high school graduation, you can have the camera on the ceremony, on the speakers, and broadcast locally for any local overflow. People that can't fit in the auditorium, so they're watching from the band room or the gym or whatever. And then you can also simultaneously broadcast that out to your web destinations so that aunts, uncles, family members who are farther away and traveling to graduation is not possible can also watch. So you have the ability to support multiple destinations and hit all of these social media streams at the same time. The really cool part about it too, from that web streaming side of things, is anything that's an RTMP destination has an actual play button. So you go in, you configure, you set everything up, and then you take the encoder out into the field or wherever, and you just hit play. The great part about this is with Facebook specifically, you can use a persistent stream key. So then you don't need to reconfigure the encoder every time. You just set everything up once. And then after that, when you want to go live, you're just simply hitting the play button. That's all it is that you need to do. Hit the play button, reactivate that already existing stream, and boom, you're streaming to Facebook. The other nice part about this device, and I'll show that when we're going through the web UI, is it does have two NICs. So I have a broadcast NIC, a streaming NIC, and then there's an interface for management and configuration as well. So if I'm talking about cybersecurity or any sort of ports and protocols communication that I'm having with a network team, the only NIC, the only network port that you need to put on a VLAN that actually faces the public internet is the one that's going to stream out to YouTube, Facebook, those types of places. Your management NIC, that can stay completely secure, completely on your network, and can be on a totally separate VLAN or a totally separate segment of your network than the streaming NIC. And we actually recommend you do it that way in a multicast environment because you don't want to get all that multicast flooding into the management NIC. But it's really nice in that it allows you to only expose the NIC that needs to be broadcasting out to everything else. And so the architecture ends up looking really simple, right? We're going to take HDMI from our source into the Encode LS. And the Encode LS is going to broadcast out to our destinations. And once we have that set up and configured, it's nice, simple, straightforward, easy thing to take care of. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out of that real quick and then give you an overview. So this is our Encode LS. This is the one that's live in our environment. You see it gives you a lot of useful information right off the bat. We'll keep an eye on this streaming side of things because it changes depending on what you do and don't have configured. First thing to note, obviously, the outbound IP. And then the other thing I like to point out, if you have multiple of these Encode LSs or can't find this device in a rack, you click that button, you can see here, there's a configuration button on the front panel of the Encode LS. This will start flashing as long as this button is flashing. That allows you to find this specific device if you have multiple of them in a rack and can't access the rear panel to see anything like the serial number or the MAC address. And I'll just turn that off whenever you want to. You can see here it also is going to automatically tell us what it detects on the input, what it's broadcasting, the bit rate of that broadcast, and any errors that it sees will also show up here. The thing to note is this is an H.264 device only. That is because the defaults for YouTube, Facebook, those types of web streaming platforms is H.264. So you're only going to see H.264 in the output format field here. And you can see if you're paying attention diligently, our actual outputs jumping around. This is just based on the quality of the content that's coming in. What this device is actually seeing right now is this is our Comcast cable set-top box in our office fed through an HDMI extender, and then rocking and rolling and broadcasting out that way. So encoder setup, when you're actually going in and setting these things, so much of this you're never actually going to mess with as the client. You can force the device to HDMI if you want to. If not, what it does is it runs through a cycle about every 30 seconds where it says, we're doing checking for component, and we're checking for composite, now we'll check for S video, and then it'll look for HDMI. Like I said, H.264 only. And then the big thing that we want to make sure that we control here is if you do have content that has closed captioning on it, or we want to make that closed captioning available, that box is selected. HDCP test mode is not as relevant when you're doing web streaming, because if you are streaming protected content like a Blu-ray digital player, or for example our Comcast set-top box, Facebook and YouTube and basically all CDNs have technologies that allow them to tell when you are streaming copyrighted or protected content, and they put you in social media jail very, very quickly when you are streaming content like that. I've run test streams before that are absolutely less than 30 seconds long, and the account gets flagged as soon as it sees some of that protected content streaming across the network. Streaming setup. I'm going to drag over YouTube so you guys can see this. So with YouTube, when we want to stream to YouTube, there's only one bit of information that we actually need. And so you can go to your Creator Studio here with the short camera icon and just click Go Live. And you will see, as soon as it loads, sorry, I'm doing this through VPN, so we're a little on the slow side, that what you actually end up with here is this stream URL, which is already preset within the Encode LS when you are making a live stream. So the only thing that you actually need is this stream key, and you can see it here if we unhide it, but we're just going to copy that, paste it in, and add this. Sorry about that. I was getting a notification in my ears. I don't think anybody else could hear it, but I needed to ignore that real quick. So now you can see I've got this YouTube destination that's added. The same principle applies for Facebook. So this is the Z-Band Technologies Facebook account. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to that profile and just scroll down until we can find live video. And if I want to go live, we're going to select Go Live. It will load eventually and give me the option to either do it through a webcam, something that's integrated in your phone or PC, OBS Studio, or you can do it through a software. It gives me these tips every time, drives me insane. If you're going to go through a streaming software, you'll want to see, again, we have this stream key from Facebook, and then in the advanced settings, you have the server URL, RTMPS. You will see that this matches what we have here as the preset for Facebook Live. So again, if you want to stream with Facebook Live, the only thing that you actually need is the stream key. And if you don't want to continually have to go back and go through this process that I'm going through right now of copying and pasting the stream key, with Facebook, you can just select this slider right here, and that's going to give you a persistent stream key so that is going to be used every time you go live. And then all you will actually need to do is just hit the play button. So let's add Facebook as well. So now we're going to be able to broadcast to YouTube. We'll be able to broadcast to Facebook. But as I said when I was going through the PowerPoint presentation in the slide, we can also broadcast locally. So in addition to being able to do my Facebook streaming and my YouTube streaming, this device is already also giving me a UDP multicast broadcast on our network. You're not limited to UDP. You can do RTP multicasting, or you can do unicasting. So let's say if I had, we actually do this for a healthcare client in Louisiana, where I have this device that's sitting in a not in the data center, in a hospital, and they want to take that stream and feed it to 8 different hospitals throughout the county or throughout the state that they control within their health system. So you take that feed, and rather than create a multicast destination, we send it unicast to a very specific server within their data center to a particular IP address, where it gets redistributed and reflected out to all of the other sites from there. So with the LS, you can absolutely support both that multicast, we want to send this and make it available everywhere as a channel, or the unicast, we want to send this to a very specific destination within our architecture so that it can be hosted and replicated that way. So once we've got everything set up here, so now we can stream out to the internet, we can stream locally, we can stream across the client's WAN, all from the single device. We're going to hit save and confirm. That's going to tell us we're good to go. And then I'm going to do the really exciting thing and trace our steps back. And you can see here, now I've got my YouTube set up, I've got my Facebook Live set up, and I didn't give these things any special names or any sort of other, but as soon as I hit play, and I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get put in social media jail for broadcasting Comcast content out on the internet, but as soon as I hit play, this is going to go live, and it takes normally between 15 and 20 seconds for your content to actually start appearing here or start appearing up here in your Facebook side of things. But I mean, it's really not terribly difficult to set up this live streaming side of things with the Encode LS. And again, if you use this persistent stream key with Facebook, all you actually end up doing is playing this. I'm going to get in Facebook jail here when this eventually comes through, and then stopping it when you are done. And you can see that we're actually picking this content and it's connecting to live video. Again, see, Comcast content. I'm in trouble. So I'm going to stop this. And then that's it. That's all you need to do to actually pause and play your content. So now we're going to get a little bit of delay, and yep, done. So you can see there's a little bit of latency in that broadcast. It's normally, by the time you hook up the stream key and do everything, you in the 20 seconds range between what you're actually doing in your broadcast studio and what you're seeing out on Facebook and YouTube. So that's the really easy, again, it's super easy. It's one of the reasons that I like this. The other thing, just to continue the tour here, is the networking configuration. Each page gives you the MAC address for the NIC that you're working with. And then right now, these are just static IP addresses that are on our network, but the device also does support DHCP. And it also supports the saving of all of the settings within a device and being able to upload those settings. So we keep a couple of settings files in the office for clients who have requested that we have those available. But it's really easy for you to do. You're just going to hit backup. It's automatically going to save a CFG file here. We're going to keep it because Microsoft thinks it might be scary. And then when we want to back it up, we'll just choose and restore from that device. Where we also end up using this is if we're setting up in a school district, let's say, that has 25 schools. If we're setting up this device in a school district that's got 25 schools across that local environment, what you actually end up doing is just configuring one, backing it up, and then uploading those settings. Because if you're setting to DHCP, it's going to be easier to upload those settings once and just kind of continually upload that configuration file than it is to manually go in and make all the changes. And normally what we're doing when we're setting up multiple devices in a similar environment is we're only making one or two changes to something like the multicast address or something like that. And that's a pretty straightforward, pretty easy change to make versus going through and reconfiguring the entire device. So it's a pretty easy to use box. We really like it. It's been one of our big sellers in terms of working with the Z-band IPTV system because it's just such a simple, straightforward device. I mean, what we've tried to do is take a lot of the technical requirements out of it. You saw this in order to set up Facebook Live, in order to set up YouTube Live, all you had to do was be able to copy and paste a stream key, which can be found from the front page of either Facebook or YouTube. So very straightforward stuff, very user-friendly, and then the play pause feature is one of my favorites in terms of being able to do what you need to do, stop, walk away, and then all you have to do is hit play to go back and be live again. So I knew this was going to be a short one today because this device is very easy to use, and we're pretty happy with how it's performed for us out in the field over the last couple of years since we launched it. And I will stop now and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. And if there's no questions, comments, concerns in the next minute or two, I'll give you guys back a little bit of time in your day. I normally plan these for about a half an hour, and being a little shorter than that is fine with me. I'm sure everybody's happy to get a little time back in their day. So I'll pause for questions here, and if there are no questions, I'll shut everything down. Oh, I should note that if you want to ask questions, there's a Q&A tab in your your toolbar. We don't launch any polls or anything like that, but if you have questions, you can throw something in the Okay, so we have an Apple device running Mimo Live. Should that be able to feed directly into the box? So that's a great question. I would have to look into anything specific about software on Mimo Live, but generally, yeah, as long as the device is getting a 1920 by 1080 feed and it's 29.9 or 59.9, 30 and 60 hertz on the refresh rate, the device should be able to take that and stream it out. We have run into a couple of clients, actually one this week, where if you're feeding like a non-standard resolution, or even if you feed the device 4K, which is more than it can handle, the encoder doesn't know how to process that. So the short answer is yes, but in the longer version of it is that there are some kind of resolution mismatches that this device, as a 1080 device, will run into, um, that requires a small adjustment to make everything work as expected. All right. It's a great question, William. Thank you for that one. And oh, you're running through a descaler right now. Yeah, I would have to look into, I don't have an Apple device in front of me. I would have to look into Mimo Live and see if there are any settings within that or secondary screen settings that are needing you to run it through a descaler. And that might be something we can fix in the software side of things in terms of output settings and resolutions. All right. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? All right. I don't see anything else coming in. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time today, and have a happy 4th of July. Enjoy the long weekend, broken weekend. I'm not sure how exactly everybody thinks of that. Weird to go to work on a Monday and then be off on a Tuesday, I think. But yeah, enjoy the hopefully long weekend for you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.